Welcome to How I Raised It, the podcast that goes behind the scenes with entrepreneurs who've raised capital. We uncover the tips, tricks, and techniques they use to get investors to write a check. Strap in and turn it up.
Hi, welcome to another episode of How I Raised It, produced by Foundersuite.com. Today I have Kristjan Kangro of Get Change coming to us from Tallinn, Estonia. How's it going there?
Very well. It's going really cold here in Estonia. It's near the Alaska.
Okay, so you're not yet at springtime has not reached Estonia yet?
I guess it only reaches for a couple of weeks in the summertime.
Awesome. Are you a native Estonian or are you from somewhere else?
I've lived most of my life, just traveling around the world. I've lived in Netherlands, Russia, Singapore, but now I found my way back to my native country, Estonia.
Cool. I hear a lot of startup activity there, right? I mean, you have some startups that have been pretty successful coming out of there, and it seems like a pretty dynamic ecosystem, yeah? Exactly.
I mean, we have two records. We have highest per capita startups in the world and the highest per capita supermodels. So you can make your own conclusions why this is like that.
Highest per capita startups and highest per capita supermodels. That is an interesting
combination.
Yeah. And you have a startup, Get Change, but do you have a supermodel girlfriend?
Yeah, well, I do love my girlfriend, and she's really pretty, but she's not a supermodel.
Okay.
But I am a startup entrepreneur, so I guess we're like 50% of the stereotype.
Good. And I think that's the right answer about the girlfriend question. All right, cool. Well, let's talk about your business. What does Get Change do?
Yeah, so Change is building something what we call an investment-focused challenger bank. So in Europe, this challenger banking movement is really taking off. So what it is debit card and the mobile application. Whereas, in the past, banks were really local. So one big bank served the country, or three biggest banks served the country, and then it gave, insurance, investment, basically any kind of service that you can imagine. Nowadays, you can just ship a debit card anywhere in Europe and basically provide a really good, banking what talks to millennial generation. This market is growing around 50% every year in Europe. And we are basically trying to take initial investment-focused challenger banks. So Change, in essence, is investment-focused challenger bank. What it is...
It's an investment challenge bank?
Investment-focused challenger bank, yes.
Okay.
So what it is a debit card and mobile application. And in the mobile application, you can invest in cryptocurrencies. And later this year, you can also invest in stocks, commission-free and in a really easy, approachable interface.
Interesting. All right. So is this actually a replacement to my bank account that, if I'm a millennial, I would actually use this instead of having a bank account with Credit Suisse or something like that?
So I would say it's, I think the equivalent would be, you're going to use credit, let's say, yeah, exactly. Equivalent to Credit Suisse. So it's kind of like when you have a retail bank account, whatever it might be, in Europe, for example, Swedbank or just a retail bank. And then you also have an investment banking account. So that we're replacing this investment banking account. So yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I mean, and just looking at the website, it seems to be focused on buying Bitcoin. Is that kind of the focus around this? Is buying and trading or investing in cryptocurrencies, or is that just part of it?
This is just part of it. So that was the first product went to the market in April. Since then, we've actually launched this car. So we just reached out 20,000 car waiting list basically point last week. So now we're starting to ship the cars to the public, and then at the end of the year, we should be able to launch the stocks as well. So then people can invest in cryptos, they can invest in stocks, and also they can have the card where they can quickly liquidate this. Obviously, for the really our vision is to build a more democratic financial system, and for this, obviously, we want to basically allow people to pay in cryptos as well, because cryptos actually means free movement of money and free movement of service for the world. So that's the kind of point where we strive for.
So is your core use case with customers, is it paying and transferring money based on crypto, or is it more like investing or speculating in crypto?
So we're solving more of the problem for investing. So I would say in that sense that, when we say investment focused challenge bank, it's more like investment app with a debit card. So millennials have three main problems in Europe. So they cannot save enough. So that's where the card comes in. It can automatically invest for you when you spend. Then investment is too complicated or perceived, that you need to invest with really big amounts. So we also want to make it really easy for this to solve that problem. And third, they think it's really expensive. So it's like, cannot save enough, it's too expensive, and it's too hard. And we're solving these investment problems as a first order of things.
Okay, and how does it work? If there's a customer hears about you, they want to sign up and start using this, what do they do?
Yeah, so basically how it works is they can sign up anywhere from Europe. They go through an online verification where they need to upload their passport, their personal details, do a selfie photo. Then once they're verified, they can top this up with a debit card or just a manual transfer. From there, they can invest in a really easy interface to different cryptocurrencies, and they can order a card. The card basically is kind of like a automatic investment tool. So every time you pay with a card, it automatically invests for you. It's again like solving one of these investment problems. And then later this year, we're also going to launch stocks. So I guess it would be good to think like we're kind of building like Robinhood of Europe in a sense. So just to make like a comparison. But obviously we have this really strong crypto focus as well, because we were one of these companies born on the internet, with our token sale.
Interesting. So kind of a Robinhood of Europe, but I guess almost like, tell me if this is accurate or not, kind of a Robinhood meets Coinbase, Robinhood plus Coinbase for Europe?
Yeah, you can say so, but actually Robinhood right now has cryptos as well. So it's it's Robinhood of today for Europe, but yeah, Robinhood of 5 years ago and Coinbase for Europe, it could also be, let's say, equivalent.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. And where did you guys come up with this idea? What's the backstory?
So the story is I've been doing startups. So that is my fourth startup what I founded, and fifth startup what I was really actively involved with. And I was back in Singapore. I just picked up my first and last ever job. So that was the CFO of one of the VC companies in Singapore. And then, I saw that there is no challenger banks, in Asia. So challenger banks are a mobile application and a debit card. Finance mobile application and a debit card, which you can use for everyday banking. And then I started doing this company and I pitched to a lot of investors and I got the first funding. But then I realized in Singapore, challenger banks by itself, it's not a 10x product. So something that is 10 times better than local banks. So then I started like really getting into cryptos, because cryptos, mean free movement of people and free movement of money for the people, and also free movement of service on top of this. That really got me excited. But then, when they said it's free movement of money, then I disagreed, because actually when you cannot spend crypto, then for average person on the street, it's not free movement of money. And because for an average person on the street, it's not free movement of money, then they cannot build a service marketplace on top where for example, you take the best investment service from US, the best insurance service from Indonesia, the best credit service from Hong Kong, for example. So then we started like thinking with our team, let's kind of move away from like normal challenger banking. Let's say just digital first digital banking proposition, and let's build like a cryptocurrency bank. And that was, to kind of solve this problem of a more democratic financial system. But then we got to the point where we realized that, and that was the point where we moved back to Europe, that actually there are only 700 or 800,000 active crypto addresses in the world today. So therefore, the first thing what we're solving is we're looking crypto as investment and building the best, investment app out there and kind of seeing where the industry goes. But meanwhile, while we're building this investment challenge bank, we're also keeping our eye basically on what's going on, and also building features that already can get us closer to this democratic financial system, like, for example, Bitcoin payments and so on. So that's how kind of our minds worked about it. First product is really investment focused, because that's how the use case of crypto today.
Yeah, interesting. So again, just to kind of summarize it so I understand, I would apply for this, get this card loaded up, with some value or some money from my bank account, invest in or put that money into crypto, and then I can kind of speculate on that and also just pay with this card like I would use a normal debit card or credit card. Is that kind of the process?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, I have to ask this question. So with what's gone on in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies over the past 18 months or so, how does this affect your business and demand for the product? Yeah.
So I mean, our weekly and weekly growth rates are really high. So, and also even if you look at Coinbase, actually the volumes have not drastically gone down. If you look at cryptocurrencies themselves, I think since 2009, Bitcoin like 6 or 7 times, it really lost over 40% of the value. If you look at the stock market as well, it has lost quite some times over 40% of the value in the history. So we think it's like a market cycle, and I mean there was a lot of retail speculation and a lot of hype, but I think like slightly too much in 2018 second half. We do not kind of like pivot from cryptos to equities or something, basically not believing it's going to go up again. So therefore, we kind of like we are bullish it's going to go up. The question is when.
It seemed like, and I don't follow this crypto space that closely, but it seemed like it was, in late 2017, you were starting to get this mass adoption, or kind of your massive consumer adoption, or your regular people coming into crypto, probably by fear of missing out on the next big boom. And then my sense is those sort of people have left, and it's back to like the hardcore crypto fanatics. Is that accurate, or are you seeing some kind of normal people still coming into crypto? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think
normal people is maybe the wrong term, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think we had a mass adoption of speculators, and I think this didn't help that much in terms of like everyday usage. It's kind of like, let's say like we're in 1999 and it's like the .com bubble, and then like it's not like everybody's using Web 2.0 services, but everybody's speculating and I don't know, giving money to startups. So it's not the same thing. And I do think we're at like 2001, 2002 in blockchain. So there was this mass hype. I mean, also like in 2000, the .com bubble, like it lost most of the value in this, Nasdaq companies. Or even like early stage companies. So I think it's the same thing, and I think in the next 5 to 7 years we're going to see some real innovation. And I mean, if you look what you can do with decentralized applications built on, for example, Ethereum, by decentralized identity, decentralized, social networks, whatever. I mean, there's so many things. So I think there's going to be some, 10x products compared to what Web 2.0 can do.
Okay, be honest with me though. How old were you in 1999? Do you remember?
Well, I read a lot of books. No, but actually, I was 7 years old. So
okay, you're 7.
Obviously, I don't tell this story from empirical research, as you can assume.
That's funny. I was working on Wall Street at the time, covering some of the stocks going public. It was a crazy time, and then I actually quit. My claim to fame is I quit in like March of 2000. Where things were still, Nasdaq was still 5,000 or something like that. I quit and just went and traveled for a year as the whole world like fell apart. So my timing of getting out was actually perfect. That doesn't really mean much, but yeah, cool, good stuff. So let's talk about raising money for this. So how much have you guys raised, and how many rounds? What's been the capital structure?
Yeah, so with this, with Change, we have had 3 funding rounds. So in 2016, April was the first 200,000 funding round from an angel, and then we raised another angel round, and then in 2017 September we had the token sale. So we're one of these companies but didn't kind of like write a white paper from nothing. We actually had a team funding for 1.5 years, and a lot of ideas what to do with it. But still, we like to kind of call ourselves the company born on the internet, because it's super cool that we have, from day one, we have 5,500 fans, ambassadors who are kind of like talking about our product, and, who we are actually going to make shareholders, because we are one of the first companies doing a token swap. So we're converting our prepayment for future service token to equity-like token. So it's like one of these, we're not only innovating on the product side, but also on the capital structure side. So I think the term is equity-like token, what we can use.
Interesting. Let's touch on a couple of those. So 5,000 fans, that's 5,000 people purchase tokens,
5,500.
in that token sale, right? And how did you do the token sale? Maybe talk us through that. Did you use a broker or agent and just run it yourself? Maybe get some details on that.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing we were quite unconventional. So we didn't use any brokers. We just basically at some point realized with our team, because we were moving really in the crypto space before with our proposition already. So then, we just thought, oh, this is an amazing thing that we can like engage the community. We can raise money from the market. They're going to be our biggest critics and our biggest fans. So at some point we just like dropped everything in, I think it was like April of 2017. So it was basically 5 months before the token sale, just 5 months. And we just on all hands on deck, like 7 or 8 people, how much we had at that point. And we just like kind of like wrote a white paper based on what the ideas we had. We, consulted our lawyers, like that it wouldn't be a security, it would be a utility token. We got a legal opinion. We, wrote the code ourselves for the token. We did all the marketing ourselves, obviously outsourced some parts, for example, like the videos and stuff like this. And yeah, then just started like talking with the community, and like we got like many iterations on the white paper. We got feedback from the community already, and then talked with bigger investors and funds as well. We had like 3 or 4 funds invest in us as well, like crypto funds. And yeah, then it happened. I mean, it was a crazy ride, I must say. Because there are a lot of things in the white paper what are not validated. There are ideas.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing. When you pitch to investors, a VC investor, I've been a VC myself, like they know plans will change and they kind of like focus on the problem what you're trying to solve. But I think like the difference is with the token sale is like it's not like the community a lot demands basically a one-to-one like execution of what is in the white paper. And I mean, for this reason, I mean, the first half year was crazy because I mean, there's a lot of expectations and everybody has an opinion. So it was a crazy ride.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, how much of it was timing though? Like September 2017 was close to the peak, right? Of Bitcoin's price, maybe 2 or 3 months before its peak, right? So was it, how much of your success do you think was timing and great idea? I don't know if you can break it apart, but what do you think?
Cryptocurrencies were mispriced in 2017. And there was this exorbitant, there was this a lot of hype there as well. It's hard to put percentages, but definitely like I do acknowledge, in 2019, if you do an ICO, you raise nothing. In 2018 or 17, if you do an ICO, you can raise a lot of capital. But yeah, but definitely I think like it's a combination of these two. So there were like thousands of ICOs and only like a few really raised like significant capital, and from these there are like some really good projects that come out like Change, as well. So it's I think it's a bit of both.
And are you at liberty to say how much you guys raised, and is it enough to keep the company going without raising more, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, so for sure. So we actually, we do every quarter, we actually give presentations to token holders as well about this exact thing. So we raised in ICO, we raised $17.5 million US, and we did really sound financial decisions. So when everybody was fingers up and, Bitcoin can only go up, we were like, okay, let's liquidate a bit. So we actually liquidated when it was quite high. And even to this date, we need to check the, what's the last numbers, but basically we still have, I think around, let's say between 12 to 15 million US dollars. I need to check the rates and everything of crypto. So even today, 1 year later, and we're burning around 2.5 million US dollars, so 2.2 million euros a year. So when most of the project was raised in Ether, Bitcoin, and they're like treasures, what's really empty, we pretty much maintained the same amount what we announced and what we raised, because we kind of were more conservative with liquidation. So we actually liquidated and start. And also what we kind of take this capital as a privilege as well. So we could raise like 10 million euros, or let's say in US dollars, we could raise 12 million US dollars per year. But we're spending 2 million, or 2.5 million US dollars per year, because we don't think when the unit economics and lifetime value of the customer and all of this is in the right place, before that we don't kind of like touch the kind of like a Series B or Series A kind of side of the money.
So 2 questions. One is, what does it mean to liquidate? So you issued the tokens or sold the tokens, and then did you convert them into Bitcoin and then convert that into actual cash, or tell me what that means?
Yeah, so how it works is, so you give out your own token. So for us, basically, this token represents a prepayment for future service.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And there's some other incentives, like giving a card and some other stuff. And then basically these tokens will remain in the hands of the token holders. And then you basically get, in return, we only raised in Ethereum, basically. So in Ether. So basically we got like 51,000 Ether, and then we started liquidating this. So then obviously right now, I think the Ether price is like 1/3 of what it was when we did our ICO. So right now we would have like, I don't know, $7 or $8 million if we would not have liquidated, but we have much more because we, at the higher peaks, we just like sold some of the Ether.
But selling tokens and raising a crypto, money in crypto, and then converting it into, or liquidating, as you're saying, isn't that sort of a bet against crypto, that it's, or maybe a hedge? Is it kind of a hedge against the volatility of crypto? I guess in a pure play world, wouldn't you stay in crypto, right?
Well, yeah, I think there's like certain like sound, investment and cash management principles. It's when you see asset going up, when after our ICO, basically when Ether's price was what's the second largest crypto, right?
Yeah,
it was $330. At some point, Ether in December was $1,400. So obviously, somewhere in the row, we thought like there is no way, a really safe instrument is like getting hundreds of percent return per month, and that was kind of the reasoning as well. Like that probably it's a speculative asset still to a certain extent, and then we didn't liquidate everything. We liquidated a big portion of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was more like risk mitigation strategy for us indeed.
That makes sense. And I guess you mentioned the buyers of your tokens. You're going to actually convert these, or thinking about converting these tokens from a utility token into more of an equity type of token. Maybe talk about what that means. Yeah,
so this is like a real innovation in this world. So we have right now a utility token outstanding, what is basically a prepayment for future service token. So for example, you can have this card, for example, what I'm showing you today, you can have this card with like a cheaper price. You can use other services we offer. But then we realized a lot of our token holders want even more, they want to be even more involved in the success of this venture. But obviously you cannot have any kind of security-like elements for utility tokens. Therefore, what we're allowing our community to do is basically exchange these utility tokens to equity-like tokens, what have been pre-approved with Estonian or and the relevant regulators, that they are not securities. So basically, that's what we're basically doing. So they can decide whether they want to use it for payment, how it was intended in the beginning, or they want to have equity-like properties. So when we IPO, for example, then these would be converted to like IPO stock, for example.
Interesting. And would those have any voting rights, or is it kind of like tracking a share of the company, or is it only converts it like an IPO or liquidation event? How's that work?
So the structure of this is basically, it's a loan contract. So in the holding company, we have one legal entity, or what we call the SPV, a special purpose vehicle, what is made for this purpose only, to basically give token holders this right. And this SPV basically gives out loan contracts against token holders, and these loan contracts have similar rights to equity. So in the securities law, it's not a security, but it has some characteristics that would make it equity-like. And the Estonian regulator has already approved this kind of arrangement for another company in this jurisdiction, and so therefore we can do this something similar as well. And the token holders have perceived this super well, because some of them actually there are like three kind of token investors. One is we just want to see this tech develop, so they want to see this free moment to money, free moment to service, spending Bitcoin and so on. Then there are these guys who want to pay for the services with this, and then the third is they want to actually be get the success of the company. So our role is to provide all of them an opportunity to have all of these three.
Yeah, interesting. Is it a pain in the ass for you to have 5,000? I mean, I guess you could call them 5,000 fans, but probably also 5,000 like bosses or chiefs, giving you feedback on advice and what you're doing. Is that challenging to manage? Do you have some way of taking their support and maybe marketing support, but keeping them away from constantly bugging you? Yeah.
I mean, not at all, actually. I'm in Telegram all the time. We have a Telegram group where there's 4,000 people. And these guys, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's I'm actually privileged to have these guys because these guys criticize when criticism is due. These guys are super happy when we launch the cars. Like people are just putting memes in the chat. It's
yeah.
I feel it's like it's like ambassadors. It's like you're ambassadors, and I'm super privileged to have them. And I have this attitude that know what you don't know, and I do know that I'm 26 years old. There's a lot of things what I don't know, even though this is my 5th startup. And these guys are this kind of a crucial source of information. A lot of things they know what we don't know, and a lot of things what they criticize us about we think, and basically make a better call. So yeah, I think it's super cool. Much more than just it's super cool to have these guys.
I guess part of the question is also like, you hear about all these token sales. Let me take a step back. There was this perception that a lot of, especially during those boom times in 2017, that people would quickly write a white paper, hold a token sale, and raise all this money, and then they had to get to work building a company, right? It was sort of opposite from how it's done in the typical venture world, that you build a company and raise money for it. It was like you raise money and then build a company around it. And I think the perception is also a lot of those token buyers are very frustrated, angry, or even just confused, like what's going on with this company. I guess, have you guys been able to grow into that role of, like, where's the company at? Are your token buyers pretty happy? Or multiple parts of that question.
Yeah, I do understand. So we think token holder value is as important than actually creating innovation in the world. And this is actually the main reason why we're creating this equity-like token in the first place. So to actually give more value, back to the token holders when we are successful. So we're, the first company to do it in Europe. So this equity-like token structure, and we do anticipate this kind of like getting our token price in higher levels than it was during the ICO. But it's almost impossible to do with utility tokens in our case.
Interesting. Okay. Is that sort of a metric you're tracking? Is how is our token price doing versus the ICO? And I guess does converting into equity kind of maybe possibly improve that token price? Is that part of the thought there?
Yes, I think we're we're like the 1% of the companies who internally we have been tracking this quite some time already. And we are, kind of like, it's the same with like, companies. So they are caring about shareholder value. For us, token holders are really important stakeholders as well. So yeah, we're tracking this internally. And also now in the next quarter presentation, we're also going to start commenting this. So every quarter we make a presentation to the community we like, actually, like, this is one of the reasons, like, I'm annoyed when I, for example, I talk to someone and they say, your token price is down, it must be a scam or it must be something bad. And I just want to like prove them wrong. And therefore, I want to kind of like start tracking it, and I want to make, these guys 5-10x and kind of like, put this big percentage on the blackboard when I kind of like leave the door.
There you go. That's the right attitude. Well, of course I have to ask this question too. Where is the price versus the ICO? How's it doing?
So the US dollar value, I need to check. It's let's say, yeah, it's like 70 to 80% in the negative at the moment. So definitely, definitely, this is one of these things what we do want to kind of rectify with this equity-like token structure. And we actually work with the community on the structure to kind of like make sure it's used for the team, or the investors, them as well. So it's we anticipate this is going to get us to the positive.
But you have 12 to 15 million in money in the bank and you're burning, 2.5 million a year. So you've got roughly 5 years to figure it out and get that token price, above the ICO price, right? That's how I would think about it, maybe, right?
Exactly, and I have no doubt in my mind, with this team who's basically obsessed about making this work and solving this problem that we're solving, that we're gonna make it happen. And just to show like how obsessed this team is, I think we have 17 people in this Estonian office from 9 different nationalities, who are just like 9 different nationalities, and these guys are obsessed to basically make this work. So I think we don't need to wait 5 years for this to be positive.
Good for you. That's good attitude. All right, 1 or 2 more questions. I'll let you get back to getting that token price up. Would you do this all over again in this manner, or I guess the question, like, to me, I hear this and I don't know this space that well. To me, this sounds really complicated and a lot of things to manage. But I don't know. How's your sort of like armchair quarterbacking of the funding strategy? Would you do it again? Or what would you do differently? The other question is like, what would you do differently if you were doing this all over again?
Yeah, these are some really big questions. So number one, I think. By the way, I think we're like I'm better positioned in the world to make an impact at this point of time compared to when we would have gone the VC route personally. So basically, better positioned to make an impact. I think that's the kind of expression. Due to the fact that we have more capital, we have more attention from the media, we have better people in the team because of this and so on.
Yeah.
Would I do this again right away? Probably I'm going to take, a 5-year vacation after, at some point, because it was pretty nerve-wracking process as well, and still is, and I'm ready for it. But right after this, I would need a little bit of a vacation to do it right away again. What I would differently for sure, I would basically have a clearer utility in the token, or issue a security token in the first place. Mm-hmm. Because although it was really clear, for example, in our case, that it's prepayment future service, it's still like most of the speculative, token investors, they still, kind of expected silently, kind of this being, so some of them expected this being like a share. So therefore, I would have like chosen one or the other more clearly. What we're doing now, actually, that basically we're kind of like creating a new token, what is especially for this purpose, and you can convert it 1-to-1. So I think that was basically, one of the things what I would have done differently. The other thing, I think, I think that these are the main things. I think there are a lot of things, if you talk with other crypto, companies, they did a lot of things that we didn't. So they paid like millions of dollars for listings. We were all the time like, listen, we're not going to spend exorbitant money on this. Then they were like scaling up the team to 100 people in a year. I was like, you cannot hire quality people like this with not like a massive employee turnover. Then they're spending 10 million, for example, in a year. We're spending 2. So it's we made a lot of sound decisions while in the situation, I think, compared to a lot of other crypto companies. But yeah, the token structure is something what I would have probably done slightly differently. And now we're fixing this with equity-like token. And if you would ask me again in 2017, whether I would do it, you damn bet I would do it again.
Hey, but wasn't that kind of the trend of people knew or expected regulators to start regulating these security tokens, and so a lot of people were doing utility tokens instead to kind of avoid being classified as a security token, right? I mean, there seemed to be a trend of that. Yeah,
exactly. So like there's clearer appetite from globally for example, contributing into companies and investing, globally in stuff.
Yeah.
The problem is all of these investment vehicles where you can invest globally, they're not regulatory. There's no regulatory certainty. So the big $1 million question is like, what is the kind of investment structure where there is, legal certainty and there is global access to capital? And I think security tokens can be this, but then they fall under securities law, and there is massive overregulation. I mean, look at the prospectus, right? Like no normal investor understands anything what is written there, right? So it's clear overregulation. There's no global basically common regulation of, for example, securities. And I mean, all of these things make it so hard that obviously, when this ICO kind of a craze came along, then everybody was, oh, now we can actually invest in cool projects around the world. And I think that was also driving the hype a bit. But this being said, like we try to because there is no regulation, we try to do it ourselves in a sense that, okay, let's find jurisdictions where we can build these equity-like tokens, what people around the world can own. Obviously, there will not be securities in this sense. Yeah. And let's try to solve this ourselves. When you see a flaw, try to fix it.
Is Estonia a pretty good country for token sales, and are the laws pretty well baked and favorable to doing equity token there? Or
I think Estonian politicians are one of the most pro startup countries in the world. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the reasons why we have the highest per capita startups as well. I think Estonia is a great place to kind of find talent, and it's a great place to kind of in a really small market test out a lot of stuff. The government is not, I think, really fintech kind of focus too much. Mainly because we are a small jurisdiction and want to keep our finances really conservative and finance sector. But yeah, I think we are one of the most forward-looking countries because we have this crypto license, what one of the agencies is giving out, and there are a lot of crypto companies here. So for startups, amazing place. For fintech startups, it really depends what kind of licenses you need. We do have crypto licenses as well.
Interesting. Okay, last question. So there are a lot of companies out there, even on my platform, Founder Suite, there's a bunch of companies doing token sales, raising money for crypto businesses. What are your 2 or 3 best bits of advice you would have for someone with a startup thinking about doing a token sale? Maybe it's about tips for marketing the token, getting, like you mentioned, you had a couple large funds that bought some of your tokens. What are your best 2 or 3 tips or tactics for startups that are thinking about doing a token sale in 2019? And maybe I'd love to hear any ideas you have around marketing or promoting your tokens. You said you had a couple large funds that bought some of your tokens. What would you advise a startup today? So
there are a couple of things. So first I would make a more generic advice about fundraising, and then I would go exactly to token sale. Starting different companies in what are actually VC funded. There are 3 main, and also being a VC myself from the investor side, I think there are 3 main things what every investor can look. It's traction, team, and whether they're excited about the innovation. Sure. So traction already validates a lot of things, whether the market is ripe and whether you can actually build a product and so on. So it's, if you have the traction, then if you have a really good team to make it happen, and if this is actually exciting innovation, I think you're all set, whether it's VC or token sale. So now going to actually the token sale per se, I think nowadays when you're thinking about it, think security tokens. There are already exchanges like T0 launched in US. There is companies like Polymath, for example, who are doing this underwriting part of security tokens. I think this is the next wave, and I would recommend to go this side, unless you have a really, really strong utility case, like, for example, Ethereum and some of the other projects. In terms of how to set it up, I think, it's kind of it's slightly difficult nowadays because basically there are a lot of restrictions on social media. So therefore, I would have a really good plan. So a comprehensive plan, what you're trying to accomplish with this. I will, and I think, I don't think I have really specific advice to how exactly to market this, because I think the utility token kind of thing is in the past already.
Okay.
And I think with security tokens, it will be slightly different. So I think it's going to be much more about going to investor bases already, to exchanges and like this. But in general, yeah.
What do you think the bar is today to do a security token? I mean, I'm assuming it's no longer a big idea and a white paper. Do you have to have a pretty sizable amount of traction before you can do a security token in 2019, or what would you say?
I think, I think like, because now, security tokens, they're fully regulated. So it's, you need to kind of like, have lawyers, to a certain extent, you need to actually go to these jurisdictions, what are kind of like bro security tokens and so on. So, I'm not maybe like it sounds pessimistic, but I'm not like, I think like for really small companies, I think token sales are going through like a hard time, because like the utility token thing is over now, what was really easy to launch, and security token thing is not fully here yet. So companies what are making it really easy, kind of like, they're not really like, kind of like on the market and having massive traction in. So we're kind of in this middle stage, almost. But because like the governments have really kind of like, and regulators have really kind of like gave like really concrete, kind of statements, what is like a security token or utility token, then if you don't have a strong utility case, therefore I don't recommend to do, utility token, because it's really clear what is utility token, what is a security token nowadays. So that's kind of like my 2 cents on these token safe things. I think,
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, good stuff. I'll let you get back to it. I know it's already late there in Estonia. If people want to learn more, it's getchange.com, correct?
Exactly. And I think one of the most exciting things what we have been, doing lately is we launched the second ever crypto-friendly card in Europe. So in this 500 million population, jurisdiction, we're the second card where you can actually top our account up with cryptocurrencies, and you can go buy a coffee with it. So, we're right now launching this, and we have, over 25,000 signups already. So if you are in Europe and listening this, I think, it's a time to go to getchange.com.
Getchange.com, get your crypto card. I'm assuming this is not available for US, or is it coming to US, or what's your plan there?
Unfortunately, our token holders are not US. Our customers are not US because of, let's say, a more strict view on blockchain and cryptocurrencies there. Unfortunately, but we know this is changing, and as soon as basically we see light at the end of the tunnel, we're going to be there and knocking on your door.
Cool. I like it. All right. I'll get my kids signed up when that's ready. That'll be perfect timing. Okay. Very good. Kristjan, thanks so much. And good luck with Change. And we'll catch you after you come to the US. How about that?
Of course. It was a pleasure talking to you, Nathan.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye-bye.